Hey guys, I wanted to just take a minute to recap what we did in the last video because it was quite a bit, and to show you another video of what changes have been made to let you understand how superdelegates have now lost a little bit of influence within the Democratic Party. And keep in mind, only the Democrat Party has superdelegates. The Republicans have unpledged delegates, but they are nowhere near as many or as powerful. So the superdelegates were put in place in the 1980s because Republicans had been winning over and over and over again from about 1970 to about 1992, excuse me. So in the late 1980s, they made this change to say, we've got to give our political leaders a little bit more check over the states that are voting in candidates to make sure they can win. So here's what happened in 2018. We know that based on the overall numbers, Bernie Sanders lost in the delegate count. But what really kind of upset some Bernie Sanders people is that Bernie Sanders would win a state, and yet Clinton would wind up with more delegates at the end because she had so many super delegates, people that had basically pledged their support for Clinton before it even started. So Sanders knew he was kind of behind the eight ball on this, and this is why a lot of Sanders people were upset about the process. And again, no one really got to the number of delegates, but Clinton did get more votes, right? So she did win the popular vote. So the supers were justified in supporting her despite no one getting there. But here's what happened as a result of 2018. Here's a short video that I want you to take a look at. I tried to play this in the last video, but it didn't work out. So here's one explaining the major changes that have happened within the super delegate count. I'll back up here.
Okay. Why are Democrats reforming the super delegate process, and how major, is this for the party?
Hi, Fred. This is a major change for Democrats in the way that they select their nominees for President of the United States. As you remember, and as you just heard Bernie Sanders say, this was a huge point of contention between Bernie Sanders supporters and Hillary Clinton supporters in 2016. This criticism of superdelegates has been going on for decades, and it really culminated in 2016 with that bitter fight between Bernie and Hillary. This reform today changes that. It effectively removes a lot of the power of superdelegates so that these problems won't come up again in 2020.
So what are some of the other changes, to these superdelegates?
Right. So some of the changes that they made today is that superdelegates will not be able to vote on the first ballot for president. And what that means is there is no way that superdelegates can affect the outcome of who the pledged delegates vote for at the convention. The pledged delegates are chosen by proportions with how the states vote. So whoever the voters select in 2020 and whoever those delegates are that represent that vote, those are the people who will be able to vote on the first ballot. If a candidate has enough pledged delegates to make up a majority of the convention so that there is no way that superdelegates can affect the outcome, they'll let them vote. But if there's any possibility of that, they will not be able to vote on the first ballot.
All right, so the significance of that is pretty real, right? Because, I'm sorry, hold on.
There is a time to kill, a time for justice, and a time for mercy.
Sure there is.
Jake Bricance, the hero of a time.
Okay, sorry about that. So what happened in 2016 could not happen in 2020, right? The idea that you had so many, people were upset from the Bernie Sanders campaign because Clinton did not technically win the nomination based on delegates, but she did because of the super delegates. So here's what essentially happened. Now in 2020, let's say this is Biden, right? If Biden is at this number, and again, I know it doesn't really matter because Biden got the nomination because of COVID, Bernie Sanders backed off and just said Biden can have it, right? But let's say this is Joe Biden, just for understanding what was the significance of what could have happened. If no one, won the nomination because no one got 2,382 needed, Clinton was about 100 shy of that, some change. So what would happen is that on the first ballot, no one would win, right? The second ballot, because no one wins on the first, then that means anyone could then step up and say, hey, because no one actually has it by the delegate votes, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, if you will, at the convention. And this is really what the convention used to be. It was a place where people would give speeches to try to earn the favor of the party to become the nominee. right? And this is why I thought Michelle Obama was going to come in, and just, steal the show and, become the nominee at the last minute. But that didn't happen, right? So anyway, had this happened, in 2020, it would have been extremely exciting because the way the delegate vote was going on and Biden and Sanders were chipping away at each other for a little bit, it looked to be like still nobody was going to get enough delegates to win. And then the super delegates basically they can't vote. They would not be able to put a candidate on the ballot, if you will, and as the nominee until the vote was there. So that would have been an open convention, would have been extremely exciting to see, but it didn't happen. So anyway, that being said, I wanted to show you that quick little video so you understand a little bit about the super delegates. They're unpledged, and as of 2020, they've lost some of that power to be the kingmaker or the queen maker as they were in 2016. Okay, here's our three multiple choice questions real quick. And then we're going to look at one more point, and then I'll be done with chapter 9, okay? The primary election system for selecting presidential candidates has had which of the following effects? And this is so key that you get this, right? Like if you get nothing else, please get this question. What do you think? It has reduced the role of citizens in the candidate selection process. It has lowered the cost of running for office. Definitely not that. It has led to the decline in the importance of party voter registration drives. It has increased the importance of state party organizations, or it has loosened the hold of party leaders over the nomination process. And what we're talking about, again, is the primary election process, the fact that the nominee is chosen at the state level as opposed to the convention, right? So that answer is going to be E, as definitely loosened hold, okay? All right, 43. Which of the following statements best describes the organization of the two major political parties in the United States, right? This is a good one. So parties are centrally organized to provide a smooth transition from one campaign to the next. Parties are organized much like large corporations, and that decisions flow from national to state and local levels. Local and state parties have virtually no power in the system. Separate and largely independent party organizations exist at the national, state, and local levels, and parties have no organization except at the national level. So there's a couple of them that are definitely not going to be true. I would say that the best answer is going to be letter D. Or independent, like the Lynchburg Democrats is different than the Virginia Democrats, is different than the national Democrats, right? So different levels of government can have different control and they have different goals, right? Maybe one's more radical, maybe one's more moderate, right? Some of the Republicans. So we can look at how the local, national, state level can have a little bit of control within the system. Last one, number 44. The primary purpose of the McGovern-Fraser Commission, or the McGovern Commission, was to do what? And you take a look at your options there. And this is the key thing that happened in 1968 is to letter E, make it more representative, right? And to try to make it look more like the Democratic Party than, like I said, the old white man show as it was in 1968. Okay, guys, there's a few review questions there. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is really, really quick, is just kind of knowing that there's different political parties. And you don't have to know like the different kinds of political parties. I would say that political minor parties are still around in America, but as we become more polarized and the stakes have gotten higher, fewer people are willing to throw their vote for minor parties, knowing that they're probably not going to win and that, it's becoming a closer contest between the red team and blue team. But let me take a look at a few. Why would you vote for a third party is a good question, right? A third party can definitely play a spoiler role. They could take votes away from a party that they're probably closer aligned to. And this is the reason why a lot of people might not vote for a third party, is because it could hurt them. Like you vote for a Green Party, you're only hurting the Democrat Party. Even though it's just an extension of the Democrat Party, right? More of an environmental awareness kind of party, just like the Constitution Party is an extension of the Republican Party, right? Extreme conservative. Most people won't do that. Third parties do play a role of a critic. They help to kind of bring up issues and get people to focus on a specific topic, right? And I can look at like legalization of marijuana as a good point there, or maybe police reform, or criminal justice reform, and maybe helping to take a stance on an issue to draw attention to it can really make this then part of the platform of the other two major parties. And that's the last role, is the innovator. If you have an issue that the people really, really care about, one of the two major parties will pick it up because they're going to want those votes and they're going to want they're going to be the ones to try to say, hey, listen, we will solve that issue and we will try to deal with that issue. Okay. All right. So there's a few things on minor parties why they're important. Most of the time, they play the role of a spoiler and do not have a chance of winning for a lot of reasons. This is it for Chapter 9, guys. I appreciate you watching all the videos for this week. It's been fun talking a little bit about political parties, some of the ins and outs of the nomination process. I'm sorry if I lost you a little bit in a couple of those videos where we went really, really detailed. But I want you to know how our system is set up so then we can step back and say, here's where we can make some changes. And here's where, there's definitely some good things and definitely some things that are some flaws. Thanks, guys, for watching. And I will see you all soon. Take care. If I can find this thing here. There you go. See you guys.